Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Kira Walters, and I am the host of the Entrepreneur's Journey, JBDC's feature where we speak with an up and coming icon in the making of our local, national earth and soil. And today I have with me someone who is really a specialist in the earth and the soil. I can't wait for us to get into conversation with him. But before I do that, let me just say welcome to everyone who is here with me in the Zoom room or with us in the Zoom room. And also a wonderful good afternoon to everyone out there in social media. If you're on YouTube, Insta, or Facebook, welcome. It's so good to have you here. And while you're here at the beginning, go ahead and get somebody else involved, send a message to a friend or someone else who you think might be interested in hearing the entrepreneurial journey of another inspiring entrepreneur. And let us just have a nice lunchtime chat together and hear about how it is that the entrepreneur's journey is for this particular guest that we have today, Friday, February 26th. And so without further ado, and keep it coming, as in, you can join the conversation in the comments and the chat. We will be paying attention, so you can also feel a part of this. Yeah, I'm ready. So I want to introduce to you today a very purpose-driven young man. He is an artist and a scientist and a spiritual man. Yes. And he is focused from the perspective of problem solving in the agricultural sector. So he has a drive and a pursuit for sustaining the environment that we all share. His background is in biochemistry and agriculture, and he uses his scientific insights and practical experience in traditional farming methods to continuously innovate and improve the space with research and discovery. And I've never heard a purpose described quite the way he has. And I'm giving you a long preamble this time because I think he's worth the description. He is the CEO of TSOTARE Agricultural Innovators. His name is Yanque Yip. And I want him to tell us what that means and what that represents. So good afternoon and welcome, Yanque, to the Entrepreneur's Journey. How are you today?
Thank you very much for having me. I am mixed in terms of I'm not sure if I am able to take so many words, but I appreciate them.
Yes. It's we were just having a little pre-program chat, very, very brief, but I had to say to Yanque that I'm very excited to have the conversation because I don't always see the clarity of purpose that you have expressed and is evidenced by your pursuits so far in the conversations that I have. So tell us first what it is that TSOTARE Agricultural Innovators is about.
All right. So firstly, TSOTARE is an abbreviation. It means together saving oceans, trees, animals, rivers, earth. TSOTARE Agricultural Innovators is a specialization within the agricultural aspect. So what TSOTARE Agricultural Innovators does, it marries economic growth with environmental preservation using the innovative approach. And the innovative approach for me is seeing the issues and finding a solution. There's a quote that Les Brown used. He said, necessity is not the mother of innovation. Instead, he said, refusing to accept things the way they are is the mother of innovation. In other words, and when I interpret that, it identifies what drives me. It's the refusal to just take it as it is and pass through this earth. I mean, we're not here forever, and leave it as you saw it, you know, especially in the state of not being at its best. So while I'm here, while TSOTARE is here, it's all about progress. And we have decided to focus our interest on the environment, because without it, you know, we are nothing.
And that is what makes me so excited about you, Yanque, because you have taken on such a huge mandate in terms of your personal responsibility for existing and being right now. And you have really found a way to define it in such a way that it drives your practical pursuits, your economic pursuits. And it's what you hear kind of in some conversations taking place now as this whole sustainability drive and encouraging and the movement to have sustainability in economic endeavors, as if human beings needed to be told that. I personally don't understand why it is that human beings need to be reminded that you need to preserve and be stewards of what it is that you're actually exploiting and benefiting from. So that's why I'm excited about talking to you. Tell us how it is, what are some of the innovations and what are some of the outputs so far from TSOTARE Agricultural Innovators?
So there are two aspects to innovation. One is method, and the other is products and processes. Now, we started out on what I call the root tube hydroponic system. That's where the business aspect came into my life, because before business, I was an environmentalist throughout high school. I was, environment club president for 2 consecutive years. So the drive was there from high school days. But what really brought out innovation was an experience that I had with my grandmother. And we came up, well, I was on the farm with her one morning or afternoon. She was reaping a yam. And I saw that this yam harvesting method was so time consuming, labor intensive, and risky. So that led to creating what we call the root tube hydroponic system. And that has been put out to a good extent. The idea was brought to the farmers. We went through prototyping, and we are this close to launching that product. On the other side, as it relates to methodology in agriculture, innovation is sort of an overused word nowadays, I would say. So what we have taken the approach to not just creating new products or creating new methods, but especially here in Jamaica, what we experience is different from another country. So we have taken the approach of creating tailored utilization of different components. For example, I have developed a method called the cycling method, which is actually an abbreviation. It's systematic innovations generating holistic commercialization, lifestyle, and employment through active networking. Now,
again, say that one again. Say that one again. Come again.
All right. So it's cycling, as in SIGHCLEAM. It's an abbreviation for systematic innovations generating holistic commercialization, lifestyle, and employment through active networking. Now, I don't know if I'm poetic or what, but I found those words after a few trials and errors to be the best way to describe the approach that we take at TSOTARE. Now, systematic means you have to be observational, you have to be very critical, and you have to act based on that. And the innovation aspect is seeing the parts and putting them together. So one example that I published at various forums is the whole concept of organic waste from the household, from the markets, from restaurants. Those should never, ever go into the National Solid Waste Management Authority's trucks. It should never happen, right? And I'm not throwing stones,
No.
right? So what we did, I did a pilot at my mom's restaurant. So my mom is actually a chef, right? Along with my brother. And I decided, here's the deal. I'm going to apply my innovations at home before I actually bring them out. I have to dance a yard before I dance abroad, as they would say. So from younger days, I mean, from primary school days, I practiced home gardening, and I discovered that organic waste adds to the soil and it's fertilizer. Now, what I decided to do was to integrate using some tires along the premises, right? And I instructed my mom, I said, throw all the organic waste into those tires. Do not throw them into the bin. And she did that. Now, what would happen is that the sun during the hot days dries the organic waste, prevents it from becoming a nuisance, right? And of course, dirt is added to those tires. And a simple approach like that literally eliminates the need to put organic waste into a truck. That's one approach. Now, there are other things that we have done. There are other things in the books. One other component that we have looked at, I'm going to throw this one out there, which is sort of a first based on my observation. We have a lot of trees around the environment, and every tree carries out a process called transpiration. In other words, it loses water from its leaves through evaporation. That water can be rechanneled for irrigation purposes. It's something we're working on, and I've done some tests with this. Now, I cannot scale this by myself. In fact, that's why I'm even saying it now. And I have no issues giving away some of the ideas because I don't want to just have them and they're not published. So those are those two components. I could add that we're actually doing some work with tailoring the traditional methods to increase the efficiency by using some simple alterations. For example, there is the presence of large rock formations in some farming areas. So I travel to my uncle's farm and other farms every now and again to do some manual work. And I realized that there are large stones, present on the hillsides. And these stones, in my opinion, could be converted into water storage. And it may seem complex, but it's actually a very simple procedure. I mean, building a tank from scratch requires digging, it requires getting cement and materials, so forth, if you're using, concrete. But if you have the stone structure, it would be less materials and it would be a faster way to create storage of water instead of spending a whole lot of money. So the approach is in, those components. And I could, go on and on.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, Yanque, is that you are constantly seeing and assessing the environment and finding problems to solve that are aligned with your belief in minimizing waste and maintaining and enhancing sustainability. So in the Jamaican experience, you mentioned the first innovation in terms of product, because you have identified two. You say you focus on product and you focus on process in the agricultural space. The first one being the root tube system. And you say that is basically near to commercialization right now, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to tell me a little bit more. You said you went to the farmers with this. Um, is it that you are on the verge of completing your prototype and are now making preparing this into distribution channels to these same farmers, or do you have other segments? I don't want you to necessarily give away your full strategy, but I just want to understand
Ah,
the business model a little bit better around this part, the product side of what it is that you have developed so far.
so the aim right now is to identify all the leakages, so to speak, in the pipeline in terms of the innovation working. So what we have gotten so far based on the pilot is production, it's the model in terms of the physical architecture of the innovation itself. Of course, that will require some more improvement. And we are at the verge of serving the produce, at least a specific produce, yam, from actual pilot, right? Which is sort of beyond the pilot's the prototype stage, I would say.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure I understand. The hydroponic system is really what you have come up with, and this can work for other types of products, like different types of products, not just the yam.
Yes, definitely. So we
Tell me what is
took
the whole
the
system.
focus.
Mhm.
We took the focus from just hydroponics for tomatoes, you know, vegetables, lettuce, etc., and identifying the labor intensity, the large risk associated with yam production. And I can attest to it because I've gotten some corn in the hand middles, doing the work myself. And I mean, I enjoy traditional agriculture. But what we realize now is that the system, the approach, it's usable. The hydroponics approach is usable on a different level to roots and tubers. There is more complication with it. You know, it has more complications and it requires iterations continuously based on the specific produce, because environment affects products or agricultural produce in very intricate ways. And if you're not able to create those conditions, then your produce will not become what they're supposed to be at the end of the process. So it's very intricate.
So your aim then is to provide a system that produces higher yields with in a more efficient way.
Definitely.
Okay. And is it that you intend to just sell this system, or are you actually intending to have your own farm of products that you would bring to market? What is the model that you're
it's transitional. It's a transitional model, because the latter you mentioned, production, is the initial goal. Of course, that's literally an expansion of the pilot itself. And then, I mean, with over 8 billion people in the world, which, unless I'm Elon Musk, I don't think I could feed the entire world by producing right now. So it's definitely going to be releasing this product. And of course, a patent expires over time. So it will be released eventually, if not earlier than planned.
Okay, so your first is to actually go into production yourself, and then having refined the system, have it patented for the intellectual property, which you would then sell to others. I like it.
Definitely.
Sounds like it might become an Elon Musk in terms of capital value in short order. That model sounds like it will yield you some significant rewards. So
well,
that is the intention, yes, because you have some big dreams and some big goals based on what it is that you have did so far.
Big dreams require big bucks, but I'm gonna be non-greed oriented.
I could tell, you don't have to say it. It's kind of apparent from the high level of your thinking and the philosophical plane that you have even set out to get into business in the first place, that your intention is to be one from stewardship and one from philanthropy, as opposed to the traditional capitalist model of just pure exploitation. So I really appreciate that, and I think if people have been following what you've been saying so far and what I said about you initially, that is definitely where your the trajectory of your progress is. And what about collaborations? Have you had any significant collaborations? Because it sounds to me that you are, as I said, you're always seeing problems in the environment to solve. And if anyone that has been around you has sought you out, or you have actually sought out to partner and collaborate with anyone to solve any problems in a commercial or a business way, as at this point, up to this point?
Definitely, collaboration has actually been a platform for us from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's one company now, I'm gonna call the name, Prelabs. I think you're very familiar with them as well. Mr. Yakini, he came to me recently and he has some innovations also that he wants to roll out. So he's not so much an agriculturalist as I am. Mm-hmm. So the collaboration is necessary because he's tech and I'm more agri. So, you know, agri-tech is a result of that sort of collaboration. I'm more in the innovation from the traditional systems approach. I'm not too much on the drones and the sensors and everything along that extreme end. However, it's something that we have to get into eventually. So Prelabs definitely has tailored that approach. Mm-hmm. And their innovation spans, you know, right across the board. So of course, to focus on agriculture, they need the collaboration, you know, from a SOTARE agricultural innovators.
Okay, wonderful. And so I get that, I get the collaboration, and I get the general direction. From another angle now, do you have any pursuits in terms of supporting others from a leadership perspective and leading in this space? Because when I read this saying, you see the work that you're doing as a mandate that is given from a higher place. And is it that you also feel a drive or necessity to lead in terms of helping other persons or influencing other persons to buy into or change and shift, transform the way in which they approach life, approach their pursuits to business? Is anything like that happening?
That's exactly what is happening. You described it, you know, perfectly. What I always start with as an individual, not just as SOTARE. SOTARE is an extension, you know, with others mm-hmm. of the group. Mm-hmm. The approach is from self mm-hmm. to friends or family, mm-hmm. persons immediately, mm-hmm. and having gone through the process of influencing the methods, the way of life, right? It's not just a tradition, it's a mission. That's what agriculture is to me. And food security, as we could have seen, especially recently with the COVID-19 sending everyone into this haywire. I believe that sustainability at the home level is important. I mean, to quote from scriptures, for example, the Garden of Eden was home and it was a garden. So for me personally, food is first. I mean, everything else that we can think of in terms of life stems on food. And then the integrated aspect of it is that we, the community, we, the country, we, the world, we need the resources, because the resources in a certain balance, they create the environment that is necessary for us to feed, for us to function, for us to have life and have it, I would say, abundantly.
Mhm. So I'm actually asking, do you do this in any kind of formal way? As in, I know it's your mission and your life and everything,
Right.
but are you a part of any kind of mentorship or leadership program where you're actually, influencing others with this message and what your mission is? Because I'm asking because I personally hope that you are helping to shift the mindset and the thinking of how young people coming into business will approach it, will see it and see that, if you're looking to make money, if you're looking to make a living, that you have to look at a bigger picture and have a sense of how it is that this is going to be sustained on more than just a commercial level. So I really,
Right.
and if you don't have one, may I beg you start one, please, something.
Well, we actually started a movement. I have been in collaboration with quite a few organizations, including the 4-H Club of
Yes,
Manchester.
yes.
Mr. Moody, he took an interest in what I'm doing. He actually invited me just a few weeks ago to present at the agriculture show coming up soon. I don't know exactly how that will be done, but I've been going to schools. I've been visiting schools, and presenting tailored presentations for the audience, for students, upcoming agriculturalists. And that has been happening over a period of time, from the very onset of TSOTARE. We've been pitching the lifestyle, we've been pitching our innovation, we've been pitching agriculture as a way forward,
Okay.
and changing the mindset from this fark on the hillside, sun hot, Camberdown kind of
Yeah.
mindset to, listen, this thing is sexy. Agriculture is sexy.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, it's also one of the reasons that JBDC is also now focused. We're actually having a drive on promoting this sector, agricultural sector. We just recently launched a program which is being funded by the ILO, International Labour Organization, called the Formalization of Agriculture and Fisheries. Personal is a drive to do this kind of awareness, bring this kind of awareness and transformation to a sector that, as you've been saying so far, is key, is principal. Everything starts with produce from the earth. You call it food, but it's also the base for so many of the other products that we enjoy in our life. And so the emphasis and the support on it is critical, even now, as food, what is the sustainable food, you said it just a while ago, the word is eluding me now, but being able to provide your own food, a nation being able to have access to the food to feed the people of its nation is becoming very critical out of this whole COVID experience. And so I really hope that the work that you're doing continues and is also taken up, and we are behind you, as an organization, and even so on. Yeah, to get this work out there. So I want to ask you now, from your journey and experience so far, what would you describe as probably the largest or the biggest significant challenge that you've had? Maybe even something that you'd consider to be a failure, where you failed, and what is it that you'd have learned from that?
All right. So here's my response to that. I think the lack of the right approach or mindset is what debilitates individuals. And this mindset requires lessons, life lessons, the wisdom that you need in order to approach life.
Yeah.
It cannot be acquired just by observing. It has to be experienced.
Right.
And as Les Brown would say, I'm quoting from him again, feel your way to success. And the approach that I take personally is that once I'm moving based on my knowledge, based on having attained certain experiences, once I'm applying wisdom, then the rest is going to come into play. If you're even doing something that is inefficient and you don't know it's inefficient, the fact that you're doing it, you're getting work done, whether or not it's the best possible way. Now, when you discover how to actually do it the most efficient way, then you become the best version of yourself. So in terms of the entrepreneurial journey so far, personally, I can say we could have gotten further up the road. Yes, we could have been at a certain level business wise, but would we be at a certain level holistically based on everything that we have gone through? So as long as you're doing what you need to do based on what you have, then you're on the right track.
Are you saying that your growth from a business perspective has been somewhat slowed, or the progress thwarted because of mistakes you've made, or because of choices, deliberate choices to maintain this kind of holistic approach?
I think for me personally, the only resource that I would want, in addition to just anything, is time. And quite frankly, learning certain things faster makes you more equipped and allows you to be the best version in time. So I would say the only thing you have to pay, really, ultimately, is time. So the faster you can learn, which is going to require mentors, require experiences, the better you stand in terms of getting where you need to get faster. Because quite frankly, I have to admit that there have been some bad choices. But at the end of the day, what do I do after making those choices? And then there were some mishaps which turned out not to be mishaps, but strategic positioning by life itself.
Opportunities coming out of what looked like crises. Yes. Okay. All right. I want to maybe extract something. I don't see any questions coming in yet, but I'm thinking as you were talking just now, if I am, there are some persons who are at the stage of business where they're still validating, they're still trying to get this concept, this business idea that they have to the point where it's generating the money or the income that they would have dreamed of. And they might be thinking to themselves, if it's not generating me money after 6 months, then maybe I should quit, because this is not how business is. Business means I'm supposed to be making money. I'm not supposed to be okay. From your experience, what has kept you going? Is it that can you relate to this? And if you can, what is it that you would say to a person like that?
Okay. I will try to speak from a general approach, firstly. To go after something, there has to be a goal. And for me personally, having a goal drives every other reality. In terms of financial gain, TSOTARE has really not done anything where that is concerned so far. However, having gone through everything that we have gone through, we have literally found a formula that is going to be more than sustainable where that is concerned. The trade-off between putting in the time and then reaping the benefits is directly proportional. And I could refer to the Steve Jobs situation. He promoted some products and those products weren't actually generating any income when he promoted them. It took months after, years after, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, what has worked throughout my life is to have a drive that is always on. And if I can't keep that drive going, then the money itself will not be worth it. Because the drive has to come from somewhere deeper than the material world. Of course, the material aspect is very important. So what I would say to someone, you're trying something for 6 months and it's not working out, I'm not going to tell you to continue. Definitely not going to say that. It depends on where you are and what it has to be dependent on the specific situation. Because if you're investing and you're not seeing returns, then that's a risk in and of itself. But the approach that I take with everything that I do is to always have the purpose at the forefront. And I don't want to sound too philosophical, but the energy that you put forth, it creates the reality, the law of attraction, as they would call it.
Mm-hmm.
If you doubt yourself in the process of creating your reality, then you're literally taking some blocks and some steels from the foundation that needs it. So my approach, as long as I'm putting out the specific energy, I've created the reality within my mind. I don't know how many persons have read the book, Think and Grow Rich. It's all there. It's a formula, and it's a formula for everything that applies right across the board. Doesn't matter what career, what interests you have. Once you're approaching life with certain principles, then the reality will become. It's inevitable. You know, I have proven that being in that type of mindset.
And you know, as you said, it's not that you're being philosophical, but there are many examples of successful businesses. For example, you mentioned Steve Jobs with the Apple and some of the products, the Amazon that is like everybody's supermarket or variety store. Everybody goes there to shop now. They operated for at least for about 5 years, making a loss, and taking 14 years before they could even convince investors to go into put money into the business. But the purpose, there was the purpose, as you said, behind the why, behind continuing. So you said you wouldn't tell anybody not to go on if they're making a loss. But what I'm taking from your answer and from the examples of those other businesses and entrepreneurs who would have persevered through the initial years where the financial returns aren't what they hope or would like, is to think about your why. It is a very important part. I mean, everybody goes into business to make money, of course, for whatever reason, or whatever you want to do with that money is your own prerogative. But everybody goes into business to make money. But there is also a larger driver, which is the purpose that you have been speaking to. And I think it is probably the most distinct thing amongst persons who enter business and those persons who we come to acknowledge as being hugely successful is the ones who really had a larger purpose behind what it is that they're doing. And that's what would have kept them in the going. So appreciate that contribution. And I don't think that the underlying be lost on the persons who are with us and who are viewing with us today. I also wanted to ask you what it is that you see and would like to see happening within the next 5 years for SOTARE agriculture innovations. What would you like to, or what is it that you plan to happen and put out in the next 5 years? If you have anything like that, clearly.
Yeah, I actually wrote down a 100 years plan
What?
for SOTARE.
100 years. Okay, just give us the
Actually,
time.
in summary, I'm gonna start from the most extreme aspect, which is going to seem a bit ridiculous initially, but I'm gonna start with it just the same. So recently I wouldn't say we upgraded our logo, we incorporated an emblem, right? And interestingly, this emblem that you're seeing here, it's from high school. I had this idea to do a company in high school called Citrus Fruit Trees Limited. Now, with the recent Mars projects, Elon Musk and the Blue Origin, I realized that there is a quest to go to Mars. Mars requires terraforming. And I asked the question, if we can terraform a dead planet, why can't we terraform a living planet and keep that living planet alive? Now, nothing against going to Mars. Nothing against going to Mars. In fact, I support it because based on the trajectory of the human population ever increasing, it's quite logical that, for example, seeing Kingston now, you see that Kingston is populated beyond the efficient aspect. Too much cars on the road, traffic, and it's inefficient, it's unsustainable. Just using that and scaling that to the world, you can begin to see the need to go to Mars. So that's on the further end. We're all about having home. Now, going back, SOTARE immediately to the logical, practical approaches within time spans now. We are going to be launching the root tube. It was supposed to happen 2021, which is this year. We haven't given up on this year just yet. And based on the results so far, we should be able to do it. But, Dembe show was, a part of our campaign planning, so forth. I don't know what will happen, to be honest. COVID has turned things in different directions. But it hasn't hurt us. It has actually equipped us. Personally, it has equipped me with the right approach or the tenacity that is necessary. The next approach, we have a line approach that we need to put out, not because we want to make revenue only. However, we want to create sustainability within the agricultural sector. And I'm really happy with what JBDC is doing in that space. Now, with the approach to creating sustainability within the components of agriculture, whether from seed production, right? And I can throw in this, for example, I've lived to see certain plants not being available. I mean, if they even still exist, they don't exist in large quantities. I've lived to see different products not being accessible. It's almost like they have gone extinct. When I listen, for example, to my uncle or my grandmother talk about the days when Porous used to be a stop for trucks to collect oranges, piles of oranges, it hurts me because I grew up to catch or to get what they would consider a little piece of the tail of that time when I could go to the backyard and pick tangerine or pick oranges of different types. You could test the taste and say this is different from that. Porous literally has no orange trees. No. And I don't know if it's because they have been no replanting. Could be one. I don't know if it's because of the large scale mining operations, right? Bauxite, etc. Not throwing stones again. But there has to be an approach to change towards sustainability and not just productivity. Productivity is one aspect, and commercialization is a part of productivity. But the other component is sustainability. Can we sustain mining the lands? I went to Moko recently and I was heartbroken, literally heartbroken, because of the condition of the land. And you know what? I've made it a mandate to find some way, collaborating with whoever, and I'm saying it now. So if someone hears and wants to have a conversation, I'm open to bring back those lands, to rehabilitate the mined out lands. I see efforts being made, I see grass being planted, I see big holes, but quite frankly, it's not enough and it's not sustainable, because if the population is increasing and the land availability is going down, what you have is competition for smaller spaces. In fact, it's just not going to work. So we have to, I think what's happening is that we're focused on the economic growth, that we haven't looked at the ecological sustainability. And without ecology, there's no economy. And I could put it in different words. Money is just paper without the resources. And it's not even as useful as toilet paper. So, I mean, it's really, and you mentioned earlier about the mindset and influencing others. You know, I've tried to influence everyone that I encounter. There's no moment, no time that is not available to me to bring across that aspect. You know, I use the social media as much as I can. You know, SOTARE's page is all about that. I use a Facebook. I mean, I have a WhatsApp status for 2 different numbers. One is completely dedicated to SOTARE missions. I know straight from the question, you know, but production of the system before the end of 2021 for commercial purpose. That's one goal. And we have a streamline of other products which encourage local utilization of production. You know, importation must be cut down, right? There has to be self-sustenance within seed production, within fertilizer production, and I mentioned the organic waste earlier. I mean, it's all there. What I can say is that we don't need to create new ideas really, or new products. They're kind of there, you know. I'm innovating continuously based on the specific situations, based on the specific architecture of wherever. I mean, if you have land that is sloped, of course, you'd use irrigation using gravity fed water. If you have, you know, different terrains, you'll have to find ways to maximize on the efficiency there. Mm-hmm. So while I am innovating now, I'm actually doing a lot of traditional farming with my uncle and mentor, and I would like to share just an image of him here. So this article was published 2019, mm-hmm. And you know, the mission is there, enhancing yam production locally to begin with. Projection into the future. We want to go to Africa. We want to go to the motherland with the SOTARE mission. And we want to start off in 2025, right there in Nigeria, the yam central of the world. So that's, we have collaborated with the Young Farmers Association of Nigeria. Throughout the years, we've been dialoguing over time. I've met some leaders there. And the collaborative energy is great. And I think once we can scale what we're doing here in Jamaica by 2024 and to expand to a few Caribbean countries. Not necessarily SOTARE the name per se, but our influence in terms of the innovation being used. We have Cuba on the list. We have Haiti on the list. They're actually one of the large producers of yam in the Caribbean. And of course, eventually, we want to expand right across the Caribbean and get into the motherland right there on the yam belt of Africa, West Africa.
Oh, it's not no little plans you have. It's some big, big plans you have. And I really have no doubt that you will be actualizing those plans because I see and I hear the commitments from the beginning of the conversation. It has been evident. We are just about on time to wrap up the conversation, and I am reminding persons that are out there, if you have questions or comments, you can throw them out to us and I will have them handled or answered by Yanque or whatever. But as our final, well, what you would like to, I want to ask, to give you an opportunity to speak to, you've mentioned Les Brown a lot. I figure Les Brown is one of the people who you have read and listened to as an influence and a mentor. I want to ask you, are there any other persons you consider to be mentors and why?
Okay. So, you mentioned that I'm an artist.
Yes.
This is Nikola Tesla, right? So just reading upon Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla is known for his innovations. I mean, alternating current that we're using. Every time you flick on a switch, every time you start your vehicle, AC, alternating current is there. He wanted to light the world. In fact, he's the reason why we have this communication right now. Wireless communication, although Markovnikov was given credit for it, but it's not the reality. Nikola Tesla's patents, I think 16 of them were used by that man to get to a certain scale, so to speak. But the point is, Nikola Tesla had an intention. He wanted to make the world more sustainable and developed at the same time. He has been the single most outstanding influence in the scope or in the field of innovation where I am concerned. And yeah, he's the main person. There are other individuals, George Washington Carver, in terms of innovative approach, in terms of specifically agriculture, he would stand out as the single most influential person within that field. And coincidentally, he was an artist before he was an agriculturalist, or at least he sought to be an artist before. And he created the peanut butter. He created a range of other products through a process called chemergy, which is to take what is considered agricultural waste and convert it into something useful, something that generates income, wealth, or economic value. So those are two. Les Brown was introduced to me by my friend, my business partner, Orlando Hamilton. He, spoke about Les Brown a lot. I mean, I would have seen Les Brown before, but didn't pay much attention to him. But upon watching YouTube videos over a period of time, I decided that I would watch one video, a short video in the morning before I start my day. And it has impacted me significantly in terms of my mental approach to life, because that's where it all begins.
Absolutely. That's the first soil. The soil is out of the mind is the first soil that there is. I have a question from the virtual space. It's about aquaculture. What are your views on aquaculture? And if you plan to get into that sector?
I have thought about it and I am using it currently. It's something that I think is highly efficient.
Mm.
You get the fish and you get the nutrients in a dissolved form to a great extent. Of course, it has to be tailored based on the crops that you're using. You can have negative effects based on concentration and all of that. But I mean, aquaculture can be used as an irrigation system. You can have an aquaculture setup and it's an irrigation system for an expanded farm, and it can be incorporated into the hydroponic setting, which they call, the name aquaponics.
Right.
So it's definitely one of the things that we're treading towards with our innovation as well.
Okay, excellent. I just have another question that came into my head. Probably the last one we'll get to talk about, but what kind of entrepreneur do you consider yourself to be?
We have evolved to social. Right now we are social entrepreneurs. That's where we are the strongest right now. And the others support that altogether.
I get that. I can get that. Great. All right. So I think we are just upon the time to wrap up. We've done pretty well. You have shared a wealth of very profound and thought-provoking ideas and concepts with us. Really enlightening, really interesting conversation. Yanque really stimulated my mind. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I trust that the audience also got a nice main course with the lunch that they may have had on the side, because this was some deep food, deep food. Want to say thank you so much for spending this hour with us and sharing your entrepreneurial journey thus far. And really looking forward to seeing where you go in the future, and sending our full support behind your efforts, and also hoping that it inspires and informs others who may come to view today or even after, when we put this thing out into the virtual space. So thank you so much, Yanque again. And I don't know if anybody else wants to put in a last thing out there, not seeing anything else coming in there. So on that point, we are going to say this is an official wrap for this week's feature of the Entrepreneur's Journey. And I want to thank you guys on Facebook and those of you who have joined us here in the Zoom room for your company, for your participation. And we see you next week, same time, same place, for another informative and inspiring session. And take care, enjoy the weekend. All right.
Thank you, and same to you. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome, Yanque. Most welcome.